Then, hoisting the bike on her shoulder, she climbed the staircase from Côte de Neige and pedaled uphill to Chemin Olmsted, the dirt road that ran through Mount Royal Park. To her surprise, she wasn't out of breath. Scrambling around on the set, combined with yoga, had kept her fit. On Olmsted, the ride was a breeze, a long downhill coast with a warm summer wind drying the sweat from her face. Although there wasn't a cloud in the sky, she hummed the Fool's storm song. But when she came to Park Avenue and the Cartier Monument, the song died in her throat. Clusters of tourists and young people were about, many of them lounging on the grass in the late afternoon sun. The angel's verdigris wings rose, as always, into the sky. The expression on her face was as peaceful as ever. But she'd been mauled. Extending down her front was a long red slash. Bea pedaled over for a closer look. On the pale granite obelisk on which the angel stood, someone had painted the word "No" in sloppy red letters. Bea's first thought was of Saul. He hadn't been raving all those weeks ago. He'd seen this on the night of the protest. He'd witnessed this terrible thing the protesters had done. That was why he'd been going on about angels at the hospital, first to Cara when he landed in the emergency ward, and later to her and Dr. Allaire. Her second thought was of Didier. Was this the property damage Cara had been so upset about? The red letters had been sprayed on at a hurried slant. Paint had bled in ugly streaks from their contours down to the statue's base. She couldn't believe Didier had been part of this desecration. The Théâtre de Verdure in La Fontaine Park was a Greek-style amphitheater, its seats laid out in a semicircle on a gentle slope rising from the stage. The stage was a permanent one, owned by the city of Montreal, with dressing rooms behind that had makeup tables and even a couple of toilets. Everyone, performers and audience alike, would be exposed to the elements, just as in Westmount and in the parks to come, and the seats weren't great, hard metal benches, but even so, it felt like luxury. Bea knew the theater well. She'd come here many times with Jean Christian for world beat concerts and contemporary dance shows. The city sponsored a whole series of artistic presentations every summer, free of charge. This was her neighborhood, or at least, she thought sadly, looking at the empty seats, her former neighborhood. The stage backed onto a little stream that filled the air with the calming sounds of running water. Bea had been enchanted when she'd first discovered it, but she realized now that, like their soggy field back in Westmount, the whole area bred swarms of mosquitoes. People were beginning to file in through the gate at the top of the hill. Her first priority was, as always, the king. She hadn't seen Phil yet, and it was already 45 minutes to showtime. She slipped backstage to the dressing rooms. Here he had his own private accommodations, complete with a yellow wooden star nailed to the door. When Bea knocked, there was no answer. She opened the door a crack. The dressing room was barely larger than a closet, but it had its own toilet and a makeup table with a mirror bordered by light bulbs. And there was Phil, sitting in his undershirt and boxers, staring into the mirror. His back was to her, but she could see the reflection of his face, chalky and ill. His makeup kit was unopened. Beside the kit lay a bouquet of red roses, wrapped in plastic, wilting in the heat. "Hi there." She'd taken to hiding behind a Girl Friday mask of cheerful practicality. He stared blankly at her reflection. "You okay?" she asked. Now she caught the odor, a mix of sourness and the artificial mint of mouthwash. "Phil," she began. He held up his hands. "Please," he said. "No lectures." He sounded all right. No slurring or running his words together, but when he stood up, he had to push hard with both fists against the red surface of the dressing table. Sweat beaded at his temples and ran down his neck. "I'm fine," he said. "It's the heat." Panic rose in her. This was their biggest night of the season. Well over 1,000 people would be out there. He couldn't let them down. She was about to lay it out for him when his knees gave way.